Time to talk about the rich history, the contributions of our own Hispanic community. This is an opportunity for some education today. We are joined by John Phillip Santos, distinguished lecturer in Mestizo cultural studies at UTSA, also an author, documentary filmmaker. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's always a pleasure
Myra, thank you for this invitation, Steve.
Well, we're glad to have you. So let's start with Mestizo culture. What is that? Explain that to us.
Well, the mestizo is the term that is used for all those people in Mexico who came out of the mingling of indigenous and Spanish and Asian and African origins, all who mingled in Mexico and became a new kind of humanity, or revealed something that was a very deep truth about all our humanity, that we're all mestizos, that we are all mixtures of many different races, going back into antiquity. So each of us these days, through genetic testing, can learn just how mestizo we are. In the case of those who derive from Latin America and Mexico, we have this legacy of having confronted this and begun to celebrate it in the 20th century. So the mestizo is that experience of humanity where we recognize our deep intermixture, our deep comminglings. What one author, Jose Vasconcelos from Piedras Negras, educated in Eagle Pass, called the raza cósmica, the cosmic race.
I love your definition of mestizo. We are all mestizo.
Indeed.
You talk about there's so many different terms that are out there: Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, mestizo. I mean, how do you view all of those different things? Is there a hard and set definition for each of them?
There really can't be, because part of mestizaje, part of the process of becoming mestizo, is that we all have our own unique way of relating to these ancestral origins. In the case of San Antonio and our mestizo heritage here, we know that we are descended from the Epic of Mexico. So we come to this story in a sense representing America's other origin story, that origin story that began 500 years ago with the conquest of Mexico. The 500th anniversary is just a few weeks ago. So Chicano, Mexican American, Americans of Mexican descent, Latinx, Hispanics, Borinqueño, Colombiano, all of these terms reflect the ways that we inquire into our origins and how we designate and understand those origins in terms of language. In fact, it's something much more mysterious that somehow eludes language. It eludes definition. I appreciate Hispanic Heritage Month for the opportunity to inquire into these origins as a city, as a nation. In San Antonio, we know Hispanic Heritage Month is every month. So, here we are always asking these questions about who we are, where we came from, who we are becoming.
We had an opportunity to talk to you for an episode of KSAT Explains, all about taco culture in San Antonio, and it's much more than just how delicious they are. You made us think about tacos in ways that we never have before in terms of their evolution, the history behind the cuisine. And you talked too about how the perception of Mexican American culture has changed over the last few decades. So what changes have you seen?
Well, it's transformed from those of us who grew up of a certain age. My birthday is on Sunday. I turned 64. My Beatles' birthday when I'm 64.
Happy birthday.
And in the span, thank you very much, Steve. In the span of my lifetime, I've gone from a time when we still experienced exclusion and discrimination for eating tacos, for instance. By the time I was in high school, people wanted to trade up to the taco that I was bringing to lunch. So that has transformed now. It's part of the ongoing Hispanic influence of this nation, the Latinx, the Chicanx influence upon what America is becoming. So we have gone from being a so-called minority to being a minority majority, or the most populous minority community in the nation. We are going to be a big part of how America transforms itself into a nation of all nations. whose complex origins, whose complex destiny unfolds through our lives. So this is an extraordinary time to be alive. We've seen this journey out of exclusion and discrimination into a real challenge to how we can transform America.
You said, San Antonio really has Hispanic heritage all the time. I mean, it seems like it's a city that definitely embraces that, but it hasn't always been that way. I mean, I don't think you can talk about the Mexican-American labor movement, for example, without talking about San Antonio and how it kind of came to grips with stuff that the country's coming to grips with now.
Correct. The Movimiento had a huge role in the beginning of the transformation of San Antonio. This is an image of a new project mapping the Movimiento, an audio tour out of the UTSA libraries that I narrated that really maps the way that the Chicano civil rights movement transformed San Antonio through Munguia printers. That's an image from the Munguia printing press, through folks like Mario Cantu, the great urban rebel, who also was an extraordinary chef and restaurateur. Jose Angel Gutierrez, one of the most important single fiery Chicano activist voices in the entire movement. That all happened here in San Antonio. So we transformed the city beginning in that period in the late 60s, early 70s into a new way of being. It led to the election of Henry Cisneros and our longtime leadership from Henry B. Gonzalez and so many others who've come since. So we are in this pivotal role in San Antonio in terms of the way that our history has reshaped that city's legacy and the way that has affected the nation through our brothers Castro at the current time in Congress and with Julian, many things to come. So this is a story that's very much unfolding now. We are coming to a new turning point in terms of who we will become as a community and how our community helps shape the nation.
And San Antonio playing an influential role. John Phillip Santos, we wish we had more time to share with you. Thanks for spending the time that you did with us.
Hey, Gusto, thank you all for the invitation to talk this evening. I wish you well.
Yeah, please come back.
We shall indeed, Steve. Mara, good evening.
Take care. Have a great weekend. We'll be right back.